Lucy Smith and Dr. Buzz Martin. First thing on the agenda is conflict of interest. So this is an opportunity for any member to disclose a potential conflict of interest that they believe can be unbiased and able disclose a potential conflict and the belief that they can be unbiased and able to participate, or that they would elect to recuse themselves from this matter. Next item is public comment.
No, ma'am, there are none.
No public comment. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the minutes. Has everybody on the committee had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Move approval.
Yes. Okay, I will second. Is there any discussion or amendments that need to be made? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is Dr. Blackledge. She is our interim CFO. First, let me say welcome to the position, or I'm sorry, whichever one you want to go with. Condolences. No, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you in this going forward, and look forward to the partnership. With that, we'll start with the fiscal year 24 audit update.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that welcome or condolences. But I will share that the audit is complete. The city finance manager accepted the audit on 1/28. Present from Nashville General Hospital was Keith Moran, our controller, and Joseph Webb, Dr. Joseph Webb, our CEO.
And it's my understanding that our auditors, Crossland, will be in to present their specific audit findings and the management letter, and to go into detail any recommendations they have for any changes going forward. Is that correct?
That is correct. Keith has briefed me actually this morning, so we anticipate that meeting to be scheduled in the next week or so.
Okay. And as per the change we made last year, which that'll come to Finance Committee, be presented at a deep level with Crossland, have an opportunity to review that, and obviously any board members welcome to join that as well, and then move those action steps forward. So thank you.
And we actually have begun to kind of list out some items that we have to discuss with Crossland at that time in regards to the future audit. So how can we partner together better?
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next item up is contracts, capital expenditure requests, mainstream, and that is Dr. Brown.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman. Tax audits.
Yes, sir.
This is the audit for the hospital that you speak of.
Correct.
How does it relate to the city audit?
Let me defer to Keith on that one.
It is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's we're a component unit of the city of Nashville, so they add it in small letters on their audit report in the back.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Martin, as my understanding as it relates to the city, each of the entities have to do their own individual audits, and then collectively they roll up to Metro, which if there are delays in an audit for any entity, then that caused a delay with Metro at the city level. And so that's why it's always important for us to, and any entity within Metro, to be timely and to make sure that these things are done as much as we can proactively and accurately, so there are not any delays at the city level, because that does have, can have some substantial effects at the city level, ultimately through the state. So that's ultimately my understanding after talking with the director of finance at Metro. That's my understanding of how that all works together.
Right. We're a component unit, so the city has several different component units, like the health, like the airport authority, different like that. So they all do their own external audits, and then they're combined together with the cities.
Okay, next item up is the mainstream contract. Dr. Brown.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Sorry.
This is a mechanical. Bernhardt is our HVA. We use them for our HVAC for our air conditioning unit. And so this capital project is looking to replace some equipment for cooling and heating. And so looks like replacement cooling coil has failed. And Jerry just wanted me to say 2 words about it: deferred maintenance. This is a part of that that we've talked about, I think, over the last 2 or 3 board meetings about deferring our maintenance costs here in the building. And so this is a project that we need in order to repair one of the units.
Okay, you mentioned Jerry. Who's Jerry?
Jerry Galou, our facilities manager, director.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had just one quick question about it.
Yes.
Personally, and then I'll let other members of the committee speak as well. One is just kind of the lifespan of this fix, and then also what kind of warranty is. I didn't see that in the contractual information I received.
Normally, what happens is we don't know, because of the age of the equipment that we're trying to repair. We could repair it today, and then by next board meeting, I could be coming back asking you for a different mechanical issue on that same equipment. And normally they give maybe a 30, 60-day warranty on those because the machine is past life expectancy.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Dr. Martin, any questions?
No questions. Move approval.
Okay. We have a move for approval. I will second that. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up is the financial statements for October and November 2024. And just as a reminder, part of the delay in these financial statements had to do with the fact that the previous chair had decided not to have a board meeting in December. And so therefore we are just a little bit backed up. So I appreciate your work on this and kind of reaching back. Thanks.
No problem. Thank you, Madam Chair. So from a financial statement standpoint, I will compare and contrast October and November's. As you shared, we're giving both revenue and expenses. I will secondly share some of our operational activities. Thirdly, I'll tie it out to our goals and then seek board approval. So from a revenue standpoint, total revenue for October was $12.6 million, which is down 2% when compared to $12.3 million, which is where we ended November. We had 2 revenue drivers that contributed to that decrease. One was inpatient admissions, the second was ER visits. November inpatient admissions was down from budget by 22, and November ER visits was down from budget by 184. The decrease here is seasonal. So what we did was looked at the prior year from a quantitative standpoint, and then we also checked with our executive peers. And we looked at that data, and they were all in line. From an expense standpoint, total expenses for October were $14.1 million, which increased to 15.2 when compared to November total expenses. So they were up 1 million from October to November, October to November. The total expenses when comparing November actual total expenses to November budget total expense, we were down 2.7 million. 2 million of the 2.7 million was made up in 3 categories, and that included salaries by about $500,000, contract labor, $628,000, and lastly, other expenses, which was around about $917,000. I do want to point out in the other expenses, we had some software expense that was related to our Paragon need. We stayed on Paragon a little bit longer than anticipated. That cost was about $300,000. So with the activities that occurred in November, we ended the month down 1.9 million. So then that takes me to the operations piece. What are we doing? So from our standpoint, we've looked at some cost-saving initiatives. Contract labor is one area, and we actually project an expense reduction in that area by 1.8 over the last 4 months of the fiscal year, so March, April, May, and June. We've already carved that out, and we anticipate to see that benefit starting in March. We also are looking at our Cerner costs. So Keith and team are looking at that Cerner cost, so we know exactly what that is for Cerner because it's in our operations budget. And we can have a clear understanding of that impact to our financials because that's a one-time. Thirdly, we have a list of actions that the team we are taking to make sure that we can reduce our costs in a couple of areas. And then the fourth one, it just gives us some trend reporting. We're working on some packages, doing things a little bit differently so we can understand our patterns as it relates to spending costs, analyze that, and convey key information. At the end of the day, we have 3 goals. One is to balance our budget as we move into June 2025, to grow our revenue and to execute on our cost reductions. So we submit that as our October, November financial statement review.
Dr. Martin, any questions? I had a quick question on the cath lab. Can you give us an update on where that is, or someone here in the...
Sure, happy to start that on cath lab. As of May, we will be back up providing care in our cath lab area. We have a provider onboarding in May. And so we anticipate to see that volume increase thereafter.
Can we hear something about the cardiologist coming in?
That would be in May. Are you referring to the cath lab?
Yes, you said you had a
May.
provider coming in. I assume it's a cardiologist.
Correct. In May.
I'd love to hear where this person's
You wanna-
coming from and who it is and what experience they have.
Catch the podium, Mike.
Just for our listeners, could you just state your name and your title, please?
I'm Jana Rogers. I'm Chief over Provider Services in this role. And to answer your question, Dr. Martin, we are talking to Dr. Akama, Joseph Akama. He has been, he's an interventional cardiologist here in the area. He has worked with us previously, a Vanderbilt graduate, very familiar with the community here. So that's who we're talking to for interventional cardiology.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had another question. I just wanted to make sure I answered, put it down correctly. Okay, this is it. If we had further questions, and maybe the answer is working with you, Dr. Blackledge, but further questions and getting maybe a partnership between us and maybe somebody at Metro to help me better understand the Metro indirect expenses. I asked that question. I see this in the information for the October financial results, and I read it in some prior minutes, but I'd like to have a better and deeper understanding of that, how those things came about, what kind of relationship exists, and kind of what that looks like going forward.
So one of the things, I've got Ken over my left shoulder. So we actually met prior to this meeting. Ken serves as the manager budgeting with Metro.
Great.
So we have began to establish a relationship. So we kind of look forward to having that same conversation with you. So we've already started, and we're setting up some meeting times. And I called it orientation for myself and actually Keith. So I called it orientation. So you're welcome to join us, or we're welcome to follow up with you on your questions thereafter.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. There's no other. Discussion. We will move to approval of the October and November 2024 financial statements.
Move approval.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is other expense breakdown, and just wanted to make sure that we always try to answer any questions, not just this committee has, but other board members have. And I think this was a question for one of our board members, and wanted to give you, Dr. Blackledge, an opportunity to dig deeper into this specific category and help us understand the costs there. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I did share a breakdown of the categories related to other expense. The actual year-to-date for the time period November, we spent about $7.3 million. The bulk of that was in building, lease, and rent space, $2.7 million. Second to that was utilities, which include our electricity, gas, water, things of that nature at $1.2 million. Just to share that component of it. License fees, memberships, permits, $900,000. And so when we look at those three categories, we probably have touched on probably 80% or a good close to that number. Go ahead.
Also, on future financial statements, this will be broken down. It won't be lumped in this big other category anymore.
And the only thing I would add, just from an early 4 or 5 days in, we just saw one, I literally saw one opportunity where we might have to recode something, but it was a small dollar amount, like $40,000, so not a huge impact to the overall pool and bucket.
Could you say something about non-employee travel expenses?
You have the detail about non-employee? Yes, sure.
Yes, that's the contractors that come in here. That's their travel expenses related to that.
Got it.
Yeah, and with the Cerner being finished up, that will definitely go down.
Yeah.
That's part of the some of that activity is part of the 1.8 million that we expect to see the reduction for over time, based on going live with Cerner.
How do we stand in the Cerner process? Do we still have people, clinical people here, or?
Yes, we have a few through the end of, I think there are 3 through the end of March. I'm looking across the room to Melanie. Yeah, through the end of March. But the good bulk of that team member, those team members are leaving at the end of this month, January.
Okay, we will move on then to revenue cycle, and thank you for making those adjustments. That would be helpful for us to be able to better understand that category since it is such a big expense.
Right.
And then, look at the tracking that going forward. Next item is a revenue cycle for October and November 2024.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, we do have to cover October and November. So just as a reminder for this group, the goals are really cash acceleration, net revenue improvement from a revenue cycle standpoint, and the third goal has now changed since we're post-Cerner. So it's post-Cerner integration, because basically the way the team operated yesterday is very different than they operate today. So October, they ended with 113.8% of cash, November 95.2%. If we look at a blended rate between those 2 months, you're looking at 104.5. Over the year, from a year-to-date average, we're at 101.4. So we anticipate that to continue through December, and we will see something different in January based on the Cerner go live. When we move to the unbilled activity, we had good processes in place You see the trend down from August, September, October, November. November, we finished at 4.56 days, down almost a day from October. So that's from focused activities, holding people accountable, actually peer accountability, because I worked with the team early on. They know what to do and they know how to do it. And so they're doing that part of it from an unbilled standpoint. If we move to denials, which is the last slide, I do believe, we can see some of the same positive trend lines. You see the trend that starts in November of last year, and you see where we are or where we were November of this year, or this last year, rather, fiscal year. And so from communication, transparency, those are all the things that drive the ability to deliver the downstream trend that you see before us. And Faith, I don't think is here. No, we've got Melissa here today. Melissa, so she's one of our team directors that focus on denials and making sure that we drive that number down daily. And that's through open communication, transparency, and trend reporting. Happy to answer any questions.
I think this looks excellent. I love the trends downward.
Yeah.
So I think that's, when we can focus on this, your team's in place,
Yep.
we can get paid, bill appropriately, and we can pay others, that everybody seems happy that way. So that's the goal.
It sounds like adding new goals too.
That's the goal, too. So I, in a brief conversation, Dr. Blackledge and I had just to kind of introduce and orient myself to the meeting and how we'll partner together. I had asked her to focus on maybe a couple items where she felt like, in her view, that NGH does extremely well. And I want to make sure we highlight those things. And then a couple things that she is going to focus on in terms of she feels like her challenges and ways that we can, with now a different, well, obviously we've really appreciate Bruce, his service and all he's done for NGH. And I told him at our CEO evaluation committee, we gave him a big applause for all the years he's served here. But since you are new into this position, I'd love to hear your thoughts about each of those categories and have a new set of eyes on things. So thank you.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So for us, and I've actually spoken to Keith about it, is our opportunities, and I'll call them opportunities, is for us to work on some consistency, trend reporting, because that gives us the visual to be able to identify that could be a potential problem, pulling items forward, opening up communication with ELT, with senior directors, whomever, all the way to the front line. So for us, it's transparency. That's going to help us with traction, with understanding, with knowing exactly where we are at all times. And also, is part of it is just being good stewards. Yeah. But number one is for us is creating a reporting package. That reporting package that offers us the trend reports. I'm looking at Dr. Brown over your shoulder so that he can have a package every month to understand how to manage his area. And the same thing for each individual that has an area and responsibility to manage those.
I have a
Yeah.
point here.
Yes, sir, Dr. Webb.
I just wanted to also point out that as we move towards the budget year,
Yep.
we're going to be transitioning to a productivity system, particularly focusing on labor, so that FTEs are based on metrics, and that would be pre-planned for each department for throughout the course of the year. And so any new hires would need to fall within that productivity metric. So we'll be looking at remaining at high levels of productivity at all times and holding regular meetings with individual leaders to make sure that they are tracking and monitoring that on a continuous basis.
So for me to kind of close that up, I want to just go back over those three goals, and that's balancing our budget. We came in last June positive. Second was to grow our revenue, and then third is to execute on the cost reduction strategies. I could add a fourth one just to communicate about all of exactly what we're doing and tracking.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I look forward to your leadership and partnership, obviously, with Keith and making that those things come to light. With that, If there's nothing else committee members have, we will, this completes our Finance Committee meeting, all in less than 30 minutes. I will give you 30 minutes back and appreciate your time. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move to adjourn.
Okay, thank you.